Brendan and I just got lunch. We went to a diner and I had Eggs Benedict. It wasn't the best. I mean, it was okay, but if we'd just gone to IHOP, it would have been better, honestly. It's hard to say why they weren't great. Maybe the hollandaise sauce just didn't have enough flavor. I would have liked a little bit more tang to it. And the bacon didn't excite me. But what are you gonna do? It was right there and we were so hungry. So now we're just walking around the streets of LA for a little bit, having a coffee. The jacaranda are in bloom right now, which is beautiful. When I moved to California, I didn't know what they were. They look like lilac trees, but they're not. It's probably pronounced jacaranda, so I'll say jacaranda. But I'm gonna show them to you for a second because the color is spectacular. So this kind of jasmine is in full bloom right now, and the scent is heady. It's everywhere in LA. Wherever I go, I smell this jasmine. It's spectacular. There's so much happening this week. It's Scent Week in LA, and on Thursday, they're gonna have the Art and Olfaction Awards. So the Institute of Art and Olfaction was started in LA 10 years ago by my friend Saskia Wilson-Brown. She's such an incredible person. And basically this is an institute where you can drop in, learn how to make perfume. They have workshops. They also facilitate really interesting multidisciplinary projects like art meets fragrance, community building through scent. So the Institute of Art and Olfaction has an awards that they do every year, and the winners will be announced this week. There are two categories. There's the independent category. These are perfume brands that hire outside perfumers to design the scents. And then there's the artisan category where they're actually perfumers who are making their fragrances. 2024 submissions were submitted at the end of the year, and I was actually one of the judges for the artisan category. So I smelled hundreds of perfumes and just gave my anonymous reactions to them. I gave them a score and a ranking. It's really exciting to find out who will win this Thursday. And I've been asked to be a presenter. So my friend and coworker Dana and I are planning our outfits and our scent concepts so we can congratulate the winners and meet everyone who's coming into town for these awards. Let's look at the jacaranda tree, jacaranda tree. Do you recognize this restaurant? There's a scene in that movie La La Land where Emma Stone is having dinner with her boyfriend and friends, and she decides to leave the dinner so she can meet up with Ryan Gosling at the movie theater. Anyway, this is the restaurant she leaves, and this is the street she walks up. I'm home now. I picked up some flowers at Trader Joe's and put them in this tulip vase. Looks like it's the beginning of peony season, so these are so fragrant. In addition to the peonies, I picked up some green carnation. I love how simple they are. And they smell wonderful. In fact, this entire composition is basically a living perfume. And then I snipped this jasmine from right outside of my front door. It's still growing on the porch trellis. This is the longest jasmine season I've ever witnessed. I first started seeing these pink buds in February, and it's almost June now, and there's still so much jasmine. I'm not going to complain about that. And look what I have here. I just got this in the mail. It's Fahrenheit shower gel. I've never had this before, and I'm so excited to try it out. I'm going to try and go to the gym a little bit later today and go for a swim. I just go to LA Fitness. I've been a member there for many years, and it's a very not fancy gym, but because I've been a member for so long, it's absurdly cheap. But it's got everything I need. And what I like to do is treat myself to very nice shower gel. So that way, after I swim and I rinse off all that chlorine, I like to luxuriate in something that smells amazing. Then I can pretend I'm at a very fancy gym. So I thought Fahrenheit would probably be fantastic as a shower gel. Can't wait to have a look. Oh my goodness. This is very fancy. I feel like this is going to get stolen at the gym. I'm going to keep it in the locker and just take it out as I'm heading to the shower. I've been wearing Fahrenheit from Dior for many, many years. I can honestly say it's one of my all-time favorite fragrances. Why do I love this so much? This is actually a question I asked myself a lot while I was judging for the Art and Olfaction Awards. I sniffed through hundreds of perfumes, and I was wondering, why do I like one better than another one? Why do I think one perfume is more successful than another one? Of course, so much of it is subjective. What do I like personally? I have personal references and memories. Everyone does. But when I started thinking about all of my favorite fragrances, the ones that I think are very special in the art of perfumery, a lot of them have the same things in common, certain characteristics. So I want to talk about those for a second. I think some of the best perfumes are the most distinctive. That's definitely the case with Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit smells like Fahrenheit. It's undeniable. I can recognize it from a mile away. It's a beautiful fragrance centered on violet leaf. And there are some leather fragrances that use violet to create this leather-like impression, and Fahrenheit is a perfect example of that. But it's so much more than that. It's the way it's combined with the citrus, with the florals like carnation and lily of the valley, and so much cedarwood and nutmeg. It gives it a very distinctive feel. Not to mention, I think there's a lot of Isoi Super in here. That's an aroma chemical that's like catnip to me. And when a fragrance has a large dosage of it, I notice and I'm instantly attracted to it. A lot of people talk about the gasoline note in Fahrenheit. And I know what they're talking about. When I was a kid, I loved going to the gas station because I loved the smell of the gasoline. Not so much anymore. I don't know if my tastes have changed or if gas just smells different now. But yes, I agree. Fahrenheit has that gasoline note, but more than anything else, Fahrenheit just smells like Fahrenheit. It was designed by 3 perfumers, one of whom is Michel Elmirac. I'm a big fan. I like so many of the fragrances he's designed. And I feel that what they've done here is they invented a new color. A color that has never been seen before, and to this day resembles no other color. For a perfume to be able to pull that off is incredibly impressive. For me, I think what sets a great perfume apart from all the others the most is its architecture, the way it's made. Now you know that perfume tells a story that changes over time. That's the beauty of perfume. But when you're shopping for perfume, you'll be seduced or not seduced by the initial impression. Those first 5 minutes or so can be incredibly misleading. If a perfume changes completely in an hour and doesn't even resemble what you smelled at first spray, That's not necessarily a bad thing. That can be a beautiful thing. It just depends on how it changes. And that goes back to the architecture of the scent. I get disappointed with perfumes when they start off with a really interesting story. Like you might smell a photorealistic depiction of something and it's really interesting and novel. And then 20 minutes later, it falls apart. And what made it so great in the beginning is completely gone, but you're not given a second chapter or a third chapter. In fact, there are a lot of aroma chemicals out there that are interesting, but I don't think interesting enough to take center stage. They're good building blocks. But when a perfume just becomes reduced to norlimbanol or geosmin or isobutylquinoline, these are very distinctive smells, and pretty much that's all you're left with. That's a little bit of a disappointment to me, and not a very well-constructed perfume. But to be able to get all of those intricate layers that evolve as they're supposed to over time is not easy to do. This takes a lot of training, and this is exactly why I decided to not pursue perfumery myself. Because I knew to be able to have that kind of nuance and control would take a lot of talent and so many years of dedicated practice. But there are so many perfumes that get it right, and that's why I love them. I don't know how many times I've talked about Bois d'Argent from Dior. So many times. If you know me personally, I'm basically a broken record. But this is one of my all-time favorite fragrances. The perfumer behind it is Eggs Benedict. I've never smelled a perfume that I didn't like that she's created. And I feel like I can completely trust her as a perfumer. She gives me something wonderful in the beginning of the scent, but continues to keep my interest hours later. So basically, Bois d'Argent is telling this beautiful story about resins like myrrh, maybe benzoin, and woods. There's a perfectly placed iris note in here which gives it this beautiful air of luxury. Notes like woods and myrrh are known to last pretty well, but this has a fantastic dry down, and I think what pulls it all together is the musk. Sometimes I'll smell that musk on a jacket that I sprayed this on. And it's exactly the right level of sweetness for me. And it doesn't resemble hairspray, something some musks do. I just feel that Eggs Benedict has a firm grip on the steering wheel and is just bringing us somewhere so beautiful through that musk. What an absolute joy. Again, if I had $1 for every time I talked about Mantes-la-Jolie. So this beautiful perfume from Astier de Villatte is presenting all of these beautiful, lifelike herbal notes, specifically basil and mint. I feel like I get a little touch of clove and also tomato leaf. Now, herbal notes like the ones I just listed are famously short-lived. They'll dazzle you with this lifelike impression, but then in 10 minutes, they're completely gone and you're left with an empty story. Somehow that doesn't happen with Mantes-la-Jolie. I start expecting this fragrance to start relying on an aroma chemical like ambroxan or even isoe super. And maybe it does, but if so, it does it deftly and it keeps its personality the whole time. And this beautiful lilting jasmine note just starts to sing at the top of this scent. It's not as apparent in the beginning because the beginning is full green mode. But when the florals begin to open up later on, that is such a joy. Mantes-la-Jolie is a perfume that just keeps dancing. And that's why I love it so much. I've known Manuel Cross, the perfumer and founder of this brand, Rogue Perfumery, for quite a few years. He used to come into the perfume store where I work as a customer, and at the time he was a chef. He was a chef for many years who was learning how to make perfume. And I don't know if it's because of his experience as a chef, if he has a particularly trained palate, but he's a natural perfumer. I'm sure he put in tons of work to be able to master all of these beautiful blends. And I know that Manuel Cross is inspired by vintage perfumes, which typically have many more notes than contemporary fragrances. A contemporary fragrance that comes out now might have 20, 25 notes. Compare that to more classical perfumes like Chypres from Guerlain, which will have well over 100 notes. So to be able to predict what these notes are going to do and at what time is such a skill. And Manuel Cross has that skill. This is Bon Monsieur. And when I first smelled it, it brought me right back to the 80s when I was a kid. I remember walking around the department store completely unsupervised, just smelling fragrances. And I came across one, and I think it was a Yves Saint Laurent fragrance for men. And what I know now is that it was definitely a fougère, because fougères were very, very popular at that point in the 80s. Fougères are traditionally masculine, almost barbershop-like smells, and they're composed of lavender, coumarin, geranium, clary sage, tonka bean. They have a very nice herbal impression. So to be able to make a very classical style fougère is very impressive to me, and that's exactly what Bon Monsieur is. But what I really love about this scent is its sly use of patchouli. It comes in there and gives it a very distinctive, very realistically 80s feel to me. It's a beautiful nuance, and this fragrance does what it's supposed to do. It gives me classical fougère for many hours. Gorgeous. So I guess that's it, isn't it? Great materials and knowing how to use them. That's what makes a good perfume. This is Dream by Gap, and I think it's an incredible perfume, but for reasons that I didn't really talk about yet in this video, I think it's a beautiful reflection of a time. And I love it when a perfume can be part of cultural conversation. But I'm going to focus on that in another video. I think it deserves it. Okay then, off to LA Fitness. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. If you'd like, tell me about a perfume that you love right now and why it's so good. I'll see you next time.